Welcome to Coming Home, Survive and Thrive in Homeschooling. Today I take you with me as I go for my mostly daily walk to our local beach with my husband and my daughter. In this episode, I will show you how a simple, everyday activity can easily become your classroom. Please bear in mind, the examples I rattle off are just that. Examples. I'm not showing you what you should do, but helping you see what the possibilities are. The main thing to remember is not to spoil the excitement and the pleasure of the activity by turning it into school. You don't have to go through a list, point everything out, ask constant questions, and then go home and write an essay. The object is to watch what attracts your child's attention and go with it. Gently ask leading questions such as, what can you see in this rock pool? Then see if they know about what they see or if there's a question. Take your time. If staying by the rock pool is what she wants to do, then stay there rather than bustling her off to the next learning opportunity. Her fascination and what she notices will stay with her more than what you keep on pointing out, and certainly more than filling in the blanks in a book. Depending on what you're needing to have done for written work, you can use the experience later. For a pre-writer, take down a written narration exactly as he tells you. Don't change the grammar or the word choice. He can draw his narration to match his story. For a young writer, he can write a sentence about what he saw or did. Not necessarily handwriting practice. I think it better to get the information out of him without worrying about spelling or neatness. It would be a shame to have him write less because of the time taken to be neat or correctly. Do that another time. For older children, a piece of written work could be done based on what she did or observed. If questions lead to looking up an answer or getting more information, well, all the better. Have them tell their father or nana about what they saw and did, but let the narration be a natural recollection and not a test. And hey presto, an outing to your local beach has been exercise, fresh air, socialization if you met up with another family or group, memories being made, introducing new things, extending their intellectual boundaries, and education they didn't even know they were getting. Icing on the cake could be some written work. Now that sounds pretty perfect to me. We have walked from the beach over there, which is the small beach that we walk to most nights. As you can see, the tide's out. Got old Pohutukawa trees there on the bank, ubiquitous pine trees, Norfolk pines there. Now, our kids were here and they were little. They would be pulling up these rocks, having a look to see what was underneath, crabs hopefully. They would be into these rock pools, trying to see if there are enemies in there, anemones in there. But up here on the bank, just walk over here a little bit more. If you keep your eyes out for things, you just never know what you're going to see. Now, up there underneath that partly fallen set of roots, there's a whole lot of clumped up dirt and holes underneath there. Can you see those? There. Our youngest, who knows everything there is to know about birds, says that they would be kingfisher nests. Cool. Alright, and around this way, there is the Tor, which is why this area is called Tor Bay. So there'd be all kinds of things you could study and think about down here. Like, why are there lines all over these stones? What does that mean? The tide is out. You could talk about tides, you could study tides. You could talk about those birds that I've just found behind. I can hear cicadas. What else can you hear when you come to a place like this? What can you see? The world really is your classroom. Up on the tour we've got Pohutukawas. They're those two trees with the rounded tops. Come Christmas time, they're beautiful. They just turn into a scarlet burgundy. They're called New Zealand's Christmas tree, Pohutukawa. And up there on the side of the cliff, gorse, ubiquitous gorse, that our British forebears thought they were doing a good thing, bringing it over here. Not so good. Our climate means that it has become a noxious weed. There's a good sized rock. My boys would have that up and over to see if there were any crabs. Now back up this cliff again where that gorse is. Can you see those long spear-shaped flower heads? They are called toi toi. T-O-I-T-O-I. When we were kids we called it cutty grass. You can see the long grass fronds underneath it. Run your hand down that and you'll find out why it's called cutty grass. Actually don't do that, it's no fun. Alright, now here's the tide coming in. So when the tide comes in, of course this is all completely covered. Over there in the distance, container ship, more islands out there in our Gulf. Coromandel is out there, Motutapu, and the noises. There is so much that you can study and look at no matter where you are. This is our local beach. Yes, I know, we're awfully lucky. We have oyster shells hanging on to the side of the rocks. I think those little shellfish, I think they're periwinkles. I would have to check that. I will let you know and confirm it. And those tiny little black ones, pretty sure they're tiny baby mussels just starting out their life. And very small Neptune's necklace seaweed. And some other that looks like some kind of moss, but it's a seaweed. What other types of seaweed can you find when you come to the beach? Now that island over there is Turi That is a open sanctuary, mostly bird sanctuary. There are also tuatara there. Our youngest daughter has just spent a few days there as a volunteer helping to care for all of the birds and the park over there. Wonderful place, wonderful. Here's a Pohutukawa that I mentioned before. All along the coastline, up and down the east coast of New Zealand, you'll find Pohutukawa. And so if you're out on the water come early, mid-December, going into January, it's just bursts of red, burgundy, scarlets, all kinds. Now here is the leaf, so it's an evergreen, not a deciduous. It's actually a really boring tree, except for when it comes out into flower, and I'm just looking for some old there. That's where the flowers came out from last season. Okay, now see all that beautiful trunk there? That's a very old Pohutukawa. You can see the roots all coming out there because a long time ago it just would have fallen down and it's taken root again and come out again. They are a protected tree in New Zealand. I'll put in the description how to spell Pohutukawa. What else can we see here for the world being our classroom? Plenty of fishing boats. Another gull, that is a black-backed gull. And there's some children over there on a pontoon. More ribbons of Pohutukawas going along this side here, and Norfolk pines, which are not a native. Dog off to catch a ball. There are so many things your children could do down here at the beach. They can just get on and enjoy themselves, obviously, but there are so many things that they can just take notice of. There's a whole lot of seaweed that's been washed in here. And why is it that seaweed comes in after a storm? Where does it come from? How does it grow? What types of seaweed are out there in the water close to where you live? And of course a beach is incredibly good for stress and building sandcastles. we've just done a wee walk. Now on this side of the beach, you wouldn't have been able to see where I was before, is the beginning of an estuary. I'll tell you that in a moment. Now, down here on the sand, now this would be worldwide. You see these ripples everywhere? They are always on a beach and the water has gone back. I have heard that it's got something to do with magnetic pulse or gravity under there. I really haven't found that out myself yet. I'm not even sure if it's known, but it is fascinating because there it is. So go and do some research and find out about it. Alright, back to the estuary. Now, Waiaki is the little bay, so this is Waiaki Beach. Now that's W-A-I-A-K-E. It's a Maori word. Wai means water, and the aki is something to do like a spring. So it means that water from a spring. So of course we've got an estuary with water, it's tidal of course, and so the water flows in and out, and you can see how flat sand here, so obviously the tide comes right up here, soft sand over there where it does not. So Waiaki means a freshwater stream, and it is believed that this is where the estuary is fed from. So if you follow this estuary up, you will, I guess, come across a freshwater spring at some stage. It's also known that Maori have been here since sometime 15th century. They have found artifacts to support that. For a Kiwi, that's old. For some of you other countries, you know, it's just like last week. When you see branches like that, of course you're going to get up and climb them. Most little boys do, and a heck of a lot of girls too. There are some tiny little fish in there. What do you think they are? Don't know. Alright, so here are the mangroves. They're pretty ugly plants really. They look a whole lot better when the water's in because it covers those vertical roots, I believe they are, and they are vertical roots because they need to absorb the oxygen from the air. I guess it's got something to do with the seawater not being particularly suitable. Isn't that pretty? So somewhere up there, if you followed this estuary, goes right up into the residential area, there would be some spring. I've never heard of anyone who has found a spring. I guess it must be there. And apparently the Maori people used to come and take the waters because it had minerals. Wouldn't that be amazing to find that and then start to study what kind of minerals were in it and how did they know that it was good for them? Here we've got our local sailing club, and on Auckland, which is also known as the City of Sails, it's awfully popular with boaties, and they take their sailing very, very seriously. I'm sure you'll be aware that New Zealanders have won the America's Cup, which is pretty awesome for such a small country. But most of those sailors and their crew started out at clubs like this, on boats like this. Waiaki Beach. There is Rangitoto Island, which is the landmark that Auckland is famous for. And if you are a knitter, you may realise that Elizabeth Zimmerman, my knitting heroine, designed a sweater called the Rangitoto, and it was based on that shape. I'm on the other side of Waiaki Beach. Over there where we've just been is the tour. There is the sea, and there's some of those small P classes that I just showed you across the road in the boat club. Now I realise that you may not be living close to a beach, but no matter where you are, you've got a park or a lake or mountains, you've got something in your area that you can go to and visit. And there are so many things to think about, to ask questions about. It's just learning to train the mind to look at something and go, how did this get here? See, here's an example. Soft sand where the tide doesn't come up to very often. Smooth sand where the tide comes to. A line of seaweed. How did that get there? Why did it stop there? What is in it? What can you find? Why does the tide go in and out? And why is there a rock pool in a puddle left there even though the tide is out? So many things that you can just start thinking about. What are the trees up there on the cliff? Which one is a native? Which one is an exotic? Which ones are deciduous? And which ones are evergreen? And why is it that dogs love the water so much? Truly, the world is your classroom.